Howdy howdy, this is Crafty Grinding, back again with an arena cutoff video for Marvel Contest of Champions. Yes, I know you've been on the edge of your seat just waiting to hear what kind of numbers are we looking for this most anticipated Hulkbuster of feature arenas. Yes, Hulkbuster. Kabam has heard our cries and is now, trying to make up for all those server issues and just game issues over the last month or so since Dungeons has been added. We really appreciate the Dungeons as long as the back end can handle running them. So it looks like they're working that out. They kind of met us halfway already by giving us a nice compensation package. And today, our dream continues as they finally give us the highly demanded Hulkbuster feature arenas. And obviously, you can tell I'm joking here, but anyway, yeah, we got to deal with them. We've got Hulkbuster feature arenas. Good news is we do have a nice Hulk 4-star basic arena to kind of balance out the memeness, if you will, of the Hulkbuster arenas. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into my thoughts for the first round cutoff. So starting first, I like to, where do I think these arenas will fall into what we've seen so far in terms of past results. And there's usually two groupings for either the feature arenas or for the 4-star basic arenas. And when it comes to the feature arenas, you're either an old champ or new champ. And, Hulkbuster clearly is an old champ. Even if they buff him, I don't know how much they're going to buff him. It's going to take a lot to even get him even on the higher end of old champs. But regardless, he's not buffed, and he's a really old champ. Same could be said with same could be said for Hulk, but when it comes to the 4-star basic, really it's not an old or new thing. It's just really there's some demand that's kind of on the low interest side, and then there's a small group for the 4-star basic champs that are on that high end, and it's really small. So far, really, there's only been a handful of champs fall into that group, and it's been Blade, Medusa, then Thor Ragnarok, and Hela. Those have been only the 4 that kind of fallen in that high number, which is above 3 million for the cutoff, where everybody else has been closer to that 2 million cutoff range. And even though I think there'll be some decent numbers for Hulk, I don't think it's going to go that much higher than 2 million, but we'll get into the particulars here in a second. Now that I've kind of categorized these arenas, let's take a look at some past arena results compared to these. So first, thinking about low 4-star basic arenas, and I selectively picked some of the older champions that still have decent utility in the game. So you see we have Agent Venom, we have Crossbones, Nightcrawler, and Thor. All of these have been 4-star basic champs after the 5-star feature arena has been added, so it should be a good apples to apples comparison. And you can see for the most part we haven't gotten much past 2 million. Now I know Thor went a little bit over 2 million here just a week ago, but it's still not far over 2 million. And I think this is a good kind of indicator where Hulk will land, but I do think it's going to be a little bit higher just based off of some of the community input that I've received so far, and we'll get more into that here shortly. But when it comes to the feature arenas, you can see kind of the trends here. 3-star feature arena, it's almost clockwork what these numbers look like, right around 650,000. Then you look at the 4-star feature results, and there's been a steady decline for some old champs, even some decent old champs like Nebula. And, she's not necessarily that old, but she's not new in the game either, and she still only pulled a 4.7 million. And then comparing with Winter Soldier, almost the exact same number. So that's kind of like where the number seems to fall, the cutoff for these old champs in the 4-star feature arena, which is there's a delicate balance about folks trying to get the champ versus those who are just doing some shard hunting, because that shard cutoff, that top 10% shard cutoff, is right above 4 million. So somewhere between 4.1, 4.2 million to like 4.6, 4.7 millions, where you get the difference between getting the shards and getting the champ. So it's going to be a delicate balance, especially if you're just trying to get those shards to see if you can avoid getting another Hulkbuster, which you probably already have duped with high sig on your roster already. So Kabam seems to do a good job of distributing those evenly to everyone who plays the game. But then when we come to the 5-star feature results, you can see most interestingly here, these numbers still get pretty high, at least, especially even thinking like Winter Soldier. I mean, he's, had a decent buff after patch 12.0, but not enough really to drive high numbers here. Luke Cage with a really good buff here not so long ago. He did get up to 27 million, but here most recently with Nebula and Winter Soldier, we're kind of right around that 20 million mark. So kind of surprised at how high these numbers actually got. So believe it or not, this is probably going to be where Hulkbuster lands as well. Believe it or not, 20 million for the 5-star feature arena. At least that's my thinking going in at this point. So looking at all these trends, here's kind of like where I think for the veterans bracket. Well, actually, sorry, let me backtrack a little bit before we get there. I mean, trend analysis is one element I like to consider for the round one predictions, but I also like to get input from you, the community. So I always kind of pose out a question for what I think is going to be the most interesting cutoffs for these arenas. And as you can see here, I think it's going to be really that 4-star basic cutoff for Hulk. And so I asked, what do you think the first round arena cutoff will be? You can see I had 5 different choices out there. 474 of you took the time to vote, and I greatly appreciate that, as your input is pretty much half of the equation going into my first round prediction. So anyway, you can see that out of the 474 that voted, 58% of you, almost 60%, so a pretty good majority, think he's going to land somewhere between 2 to 2.5 million. And when I looked at some of the comments, and thank you very much for those folks who took the time to write a little context to your vote in the comment section, Freezy here has a very common sentiment amongst those folks who provided input. So it was definitely between this range, as he is old champ, but a solid attacker, just like the Thor arena. And then he says, I don't see many players going for him as they would already have him. So he kind of counterbalances, yeah, still a decent champ, but a lot of people might already have him. So kind of that 2 to 2.5. And he does, and I agree with Freezy here, comparing it to Thor's arena, recent arena. We've seen those numbers get a little bit above 2 million as well. Then Sean here gives another perspective for somebody who voted 2 to 2.5. Hulk is some solid utility. We might get to see a record low for Hulkbuster in the 4-star feature arena. So Sean's point here is that you're going to see a pretty decent number for Hulk, not only because of what the champion is in the game today, but also because look at who the feature champ is, Hulkbuster. So there'll probably be less people driving that number, allowing folks to do more grinding in the 4-star basic arena. And last, just to give another perspective of some of those folks who even looked for a higher number, Matt Kopak here said it's a champ a lot of people want, even though his value in the game isn't what it used to be. So, and I did get this sentiment looking at a lot of other feedback where a lot of people are looking to dupe him for the first time, including myself, which might actually drive this number a little bit higher than what we've typically seen around that 2 million mark. So considering all of this, plus thinking about the feature arenas, here are my thoughts for the first round predictions. So this is within, 5 or 10%. I think these were actually the cutoffs were land for the veterans bracket. So starting first with the 5-star feature Hulkbuster on the left. As I said, when we were looking at those the past numbers for the 5-star feature arena for old champs, right around 20 million. I think we're going to see 20 million like we saw around for Nebula and Winter Soldier, with a top 10% shard tier coming in at 10 million. Then jumping to the 4-star basic arena, the 4-star feature arena for Hulkbuster, similar to what we saw for Nebula and Winter Soldier. I think we're going to see it right at 4.7, somewhere around that area, with a top 10% shard tier coming at 4.1 million. And again, there's going to be that fine balance trying to, if you're just trying to get shards, to make sure you make the cutoff for the shards, but don't go too high to where you actually get Hulkbuster. And then coming to Hulk now, where I think it's going to be the more interesting out of all these arenas in terms of its first round cutoff. I do think it's going to push right around 2.5 million, with 11 to 25% shard tier coming in at 1.4 million. And lastly, I'm taking a look at the 3-star feature arena. I don't think there's going to be anything new here. We're going to kind of see that standard number to 650% for the cutoff of the champ, with 11 to 25% shard tier at 450,000. And if you're new to my channel, these prediction videos, not only do I like to give kind of where I think the actual cutoff will be, exceptions occur all the time, right? You hear from Wall Street, past results don't guarantee future results. So with that in mind, I always like to give kind of a grind target, kind of like a buffer zone, a safe zone, if you will, just in case we get some unexpected results. So if you really got to have that 5-star Hulkbuster, go to 22 million. Same for the 4-star feature Hulkbuster. If you got to have them, go to 5 million. And here's a more interesting one. If you really want to get Hulk and don't miss him in the basic arena, go to 2.8 million. You might even want to go to 3 million to make sure you lock him up. And then lastly, with that 3-star feature Hulkbuster, 700,000, and he should definitely be yours. And again, these grind targets as well as actual cutoff predictions are for the veterans bracket. When it comes to the beginner and intermediate bracket, there's just not a ton of data available with results. You don't see the Reddit group with the survey results out there trying to get anything other than veterans. So when it comes to these, there's just a lot of anecdotal information. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. There's just some based off of folks who from time to time in my channel drop a kind of like what results they have in the comment section of my videos, which I appreciate that very much. Plus my own personal experience, which hasn't been very recent. It's almost been a year ago, last August, when I was taking my current main account through these earlier brackets. So here's just some rough ranges to kind of keep in mind if you're newer to the game or have a newer account. These are some numbers to kind of play against. Again, these are going to be pretty rough, so they could be off by a pretty decent percentage. Definitely not in the 10%, 5% range, so keep that in mind. When thinking of the beginner's bracket for the 3-star feature Hulkbuster, 245,000 is the rough target. 4-star basic Hulk at around 1 million, and the 4-star feature Hulkbuster 1 million as well. Jumping over now to the intermediate bracket for the 3-star feature Hulkbuster, 550,000 should work. For the, and probably even a little less. When the 4-star basic Hulk, you want to go to 1 million, probably a little bit over. And with the 4-star feature Hulkbuster, 900,000, maybe even a little less to 800,000 should work for him. Anyway, these are my thoughts for the beginner intermediate bracket. And again, here are my thoughts for the veteran bracket. What do you think? Would love to hear your thoughts. Throw them down in the comment section, especially if you disagree. Kind of would like to hear that. We can discuss it for sure there. If you have any questions, throw it in the comment section as well. Other than that, thanks a lot for stopping by. If you enjoyed this video, would really appreciate you clicking that thumbs up button. And if you like this and other videos I have on the channel, would really appreciate you subscribe. Thanks again, and have a great day.